I can't stand Gary Vee, for example,
Yeah.
where they make it out that you can only be an entrepreneur if you're doing this 24/7, and you can only achieve anything if you don't think about anything else and give up your life for like 5 years and then it's going to pay off. It's not always like that.
All right, guys. So this is episode 12. Is it, Christian? What episode is this, 12?
Should be.
Okay.
I hope so.
And this is an exciting episode because we've got another guest. Today I want to introduce you guys to Orsi. So I think roughly last winter, so that was during, wow, it's been a while. So that was during June, July. So that's like nearly 6 months ago, I met Orsi. So was my cousin's girlfriend's co-worker. And we went snowboarding, and that's sort of when I first met her. And I think she worked as a marketer, I believe. She sort of, actually, Orsi, I'll let you sort of introduce yourself. I don't want to butcher it too much, but yeah, introduce yourself to everyone.
Sure. Hi. So my name is Orsi, and as Andy said, I'm in advertising. The role that I'm doing at the moment is a sales role. So I work for the tech side of the business. Specifically, it's a piece of tech that allows media agencies to set up campaigns. So it's similar to where you guys are advertising on Facebook. There's Facebook Bid Manager, but it only allows you to advertise on Facebook. So there's a piece of technology that allows you to advertise on all the different publishers, except from the ones like Facebook, who are specifically built their own ecosystem. And the agencies have access to multiple of these technologies. And basically my job is to convince them to use ours as opposed to our competitors.
Yeah, what I found most interesting was that in your sales position, like you would be like taking clients out to golf, drinking. You would be like, I think I heard Dan's story where he met some clients at like Perisha, and then he called the boss and he got like a budget to like buy them more drinks. Like this is it's like a corporate type of sales thing where you sort of build relationships. Tell me more about that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think sales is really different in different industries. Advertising in general is quite a fun industry. So there's a lot of relationship building, and part of the relationship building is to be taking clients out, organizing fun activities. So back when I used to be at agency, Google used to put up this whole week when they would bring in VR stuff, or there's a lot of drinking and eating involved, that's for sure. And then most of the salespeople are trying to do something different, trying to stand out. This is when you start doing the mini golfs or the painting classes. So it's a very small industry, and people come and go. So and there's a lot of different technologies, and there's a lot of them are quite similar. So just to get an audience with your clients, you want to have that relationship where people are willing to give you their time, and that's kind of what this entertainment side of the business is about.
Yeah, and another thing that I noticed was that within sort of your workplace, it's sort of like a corporate setting, but you've been able to maneuver it really well. You've been able to sort of, finesse it. You've been able to sort of learn how to be like a chameleon within sort of the corporate landscape. You sort of you seem like really outgoing. You're the ones that are always planning the events. You sort of know, you're always putting out a helping hand. You sort of know everyone. You sort of know who's important, who's not. And you're like a pretty chameleon. Like, would you say so? Like, that's sort of what I've been able to sort of sense just sort of hanging out with you, Orsi.
I think that's really important in sales to be like that, because you have to speak to so many different type of people, and it all starts with showing an interest in other people. So you kind of have to be like that to be able to connect with all of them.
So in terms of going off with that as well, obviously you'd get the people that you're able to easily engage and interact with. What about like the other side of it, where it's like the difficult clients or the difficult ones to try and tie down to, say, a partnership or a deal? Like, how do you manage and navigate your way through those harder sort of client building relationships, etc.?
The thing is that everyone has an interest, right? Some people are really interested in what we do, so as in like media, so then you will have a conversation about media. But I think a really good advice from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is, rather than talking about yourself, try to find out about the other people. So I think it's just asking questions, and once you find out what they like, you don't have to know anything about it. You can just ask, like, or like family. Oh, you have children. How old are they? People love talking about themselves, so you can't really go wrong with that. There are difficult clients, but it's not really at the stage when you get to know them. But I think it's just about also being about genuine, and if you don't know something, then don't pretend that you know something. Just tell them that I'll come back to you about it and actually follow up.
How about like all the difficult co-workers, all the sort of people with egos, or even the coy co-workers, the ones that are a bit cheeky, they're a bit like they're testing you? How have you been able to move that, especially as an outsider? Or did you even feel like an outsider, or did you see that as an advantage? Or another thing is, Orsi, she actually came from Hungary, so that's like another thing I totally forgot to mention. But yeah, that was a few questions, I guess.
It wasn't very difficult coming into the business, because media is just such as I said, it's a very fun and outgoing and sociable industry. So everyone's really friendly and welcoming, and it's probably the best part of the job, the people. It's so interactive. I think you're always going to have difficult people in your life, at work, outside of work. I always try to think about their point of view and think that they don't have bad intentions. They might be frustrated for some reason, so let's try to address the reason why they're frustrated. I had multiple examples in my career when someone was when you feel like someone doesn't want to work with you. So I think just being really honest in those situations and just ask what are you worried about, and how can I help? How can we work together on fixing this situation? And 99% of the times you will get cooperation back. I had one example when someone was just aggressive and hostile, but that's their problem.
Yeah, I think another thing I noticed was that you would tell stories of like people were trying to test you, but you would really stand your ground, and then you would not hear back from them ever. Like you would be able to really make yourself not a target. I think in the workforce, everyone's targeting someone. There's always someone that's like taking all the, someone that's the sheep of the herd, that's like just everyone's just like targeting. But you've been able to really, you have like a sense of like really cheerfulness and like happy-go-lucky sort of happiness, but at the same time you have this like underlining sort of assertiveness of like don't fuck with me type of vibe as well. Yeah.
Thanks. I think it's a lot about learning when to keep going with something and when to give up. You have to know as much as you should know how to be persistent, to know what's not worth your time or your energy. And I think that comes with trial and error. There's definitely, I'm lucky because I've got such a huge, we call it patch in sales, that I don't have to convert every single opportunity. And it's never going to be all converted. The way how we work, we build a pipeline, and you know that not everyone in your pipeline is going to convert. So you just kind of work through the same way what we do in media as brands going and trying to find customers, the same is what we're doing in sales as well. In order to have, I'm not really like doing individual sales, I'm in software sales. So it's different. You kind of get people to constantly use something. But say, if you're going to speak to 10 people, 5, maybe the conversation continues along, and then 2 is who is actually going to convert. But then because they're all in different teams, then once the 2 converts and the product really works, that they get amazing service, then they start telling other people. So you can then go back to those people and continue on the conversation. So just kind of identifying the low-hanging fruit.
Makes sense. And like another thing I wanted to talk about was like, given that you've dabbled into entrepreneurship, into personal development, how has that helped, or what's your view on your sort of 9-to-5 or job? Like, do you feel like, are you always sort of looking to grow, looking to climb the ladder, or is there even a ladder? Because I think from an outside perspective, what I see looking in, it feels like a ladder that everyone's climbing to the top, and everyone's sort of really hungry. Everyone has to be the best version of themselves to climb to the top. I don't see that as a bad or good thing. I'm pretty neutral about it. What's your perspective on the inside, as well as having the entrepreneurial point of view with it?
I think it's really dependent on the company. The whole ladder analogy that you're using, I think it's quite true, especially when you're in a big corp business, when a lot of the decision making is centralized. So there's only so much you can grow. There's a lot of people around you, and it's not necessarily that you always have to be the best version of yourself, but your growth is very much dictated by others, whilst when you are in an entrepreneur type of business, and that could be yours, but you can also be an entrepreneur working for someone else, joining a startup. So your growth can be exponential, and in the corporate world, some people make bigger steps, some people make smaller steps, but it's always going to be linear. I think so. As you said, I've been dabbing into entrepreneurship, and I'm actually starting something else now. We had a little chat about it, but I've actually started making the move as well. I see myself on the long term being an entrepreneur, but I think that it doesn't mean that corporate doesn't have that. This is how my life turned out to be. I would love to have started earlier, but this is what I'm doing, and I just see it as a part of my journey. And a lot of the things that I'm learning in corp, I'm definitely going to be able to use in when I'm going to have my own business.
So if you don't mind me asking, so you mentioned earlier that obviously you've seen people climb the ladder and everything, and a few questions. So did you ever feel like you needed to do that as well? Because like you said, I've seen it as well. Like some people make small strides upwards, some people really just take a leap out of nowhere, and you kind of wonder, well, how they get there, etc. But I guess, what was the push for you to move more into an entrepreneurial side? What sort of pushed you to that side? Obviously, it sounds like you love your job. It sounds like you're enjoying what you're doing. It sounds like you're very enthusiastic and passionate about it. But obviously, there's always benefits with the entrepreneurial side, etc. But what sort of made you push and say, okay, I'm going to start doing it? And I'm, like you said, you're recently starting a new venture as well. What made you say, I'm going to start this? I'm going to be doing this?
Yeah, I think I did think before that I have to kind of climb up the ladder, because when I was starting my career, entrepreneurship wasn't really a thing. It was, but not the way it is now, that everyone's talking about it, and it's just kind of one of the standard routes, if not the popular ones. So it wasn't. My parents are doctors, so it was. I didn't see that as a route. And then I met a couple of people. I met one guy who was, I think he's an angel investor. So he was doing startups, but he was also advising them and just kind of working with 4 or 5 at a time. And I thought, that's really cool that he can do that. And then I just started finding more out about it. But I think the big push for me was when I came to Australia. I was in a job that I didn't really enjoy at the time as well. And one thing that was really big for me is that now that I'm really far away from home and I have a very limited supply of free time, which is what, 25 days a year. And that's all I have to go on holiday and see my family. And it just made me really question, why do I have to rely on my personal time for an income? And this is kind of when things started trickling, and then I started thinking about what should I do as a business. Then I came up with my idea, and I met people who were giving me advice, and I was just kind of listening to podcasts, listening to 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss, and now it just really makes sense. It's not for everyone, because that's the thing with the whole current entrepreneur buzz, that it's like everyone has to be an entrepreneur. No, not everyone has to be an entrepreneur. Some people like the safety and security of being in a job. But for me, I just feel like that's something I would really enjoy, and that's something that just makes sense for my lifestyle, being able to just go home for 3 months if I want to.
Yeah, it's an amazing answer. I think you really hit the nail on it in terms of just, it all comes down to personal preference at the end of the day as well. But yeah, having that goal and ambition that you said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Actually, in the last 2 to 3 months working in corporate, Christian, what has been the most difficult thing, or has there been anything difficult transitioning from university to just straight into the corporate life? You had experience working in similar things. I don't know if it was like that big of a jump, but what has been the toughest thing on your end?
For me, I think a lot of people straight out of tertiary education, straight out of university, I don't think they understand that it's quite taxing, the 9 to 5. Like Orsi said, like you don't realize you get 2 weeks annual leave a year or something like that, like something absurd. Like she said, you get 25 days of personal time to yourself, and that's the time when you've been working so long. That's your holiday time. You don't really get to focus and develop on yourself and your personal being. But yeah, I think that for me, like you said, I have been working for a while, but in terms of full-time work, I think the one thing I didn't realize is it's extremely draining in terms of just being able to, obviously you get used to it and you get in the cycle and you get in the habit, and you get into these routines that you are able to sort of manage effectively, etc. But yeah, for me it was more so for now, developing these routines and getting into it and making sure I remain strict with it, so that I can eventually later on try and look and see what I can do with it. But yeah, that was what the difficulty was for me.
And Orsi, do you find that you've been able to really casually maneuver the 9 to 5 because of the job, or have you done certain things to really make it fun and easy and make it not feel like it's super draining, or is it super draining?
So I studied hotel management at uni, and I also was working in hotels next to uni, and I used to start my shift at 10 o'clock and finish at 6 a.m. and just going in and out of uni, work, 12-hour shifts on your feet, random times, no consistency, no routine. And after that, I was like, I would love a 9 to 5. and I did. And some jobs I liked more than others, but I think there's always going to be things you like about your job, things that you're enjoying about your job. And that's the same thing if you're an entrepreneur. I think you are pretty much working Monday to Friday as well. Obviously, you have more flexibility and you can do different things if you want. You can work from a different location. But in the end of the day, you want some people want some kind of routine. So I wouldn't say the 9 to 5 element is the aspect of it, but it's the ability to not do it when you don't want to. Or, just say it's a nice sunny day and you know that the weekend is going to be rainy, then you can just shift your days around. But in the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, you're still going to have meetings. You're still going to have to deal with other people. I think it's just more that flexibility, and also the prospect of the long-term growth. Yeah. Because you could be the CEO of a company, you're still relying on your personal time to get your salary, and you may make a lot of money, but you're only gonna make that money if you turn up.
Makes sense. Christian, from your perspective, is entrepreneurship appealing, or like does it just seem like this really unicorn thing that some people can do, but you're like, you don't see yourself fitting into that? Like, what's your perspective from your end, Christian?
I think it's 100%. It seems elusive to me in terms of, because I've never thought about it as an option in terms of me being able to do it. But obviously, you know, now that I have more spare time, having finished my studies, etc., because that was obviously my one priority, you know, finish uni, whatever, just get it over and done with, and then, you know, you have your degree, you have a job. But now it's more so I have that spare time, I have that free time to be able to think about different things, and it did seem elusive, but now it's sort of like what you said, like I'll just maybe like later on down the track, maybe try and see what I can do, start a business or think for myself in terms of that. But it definitely is so appealing. What isn't appealing about that? Like what you said, right? It's a beautiful day outside. You know the weekend's going to be raining. Oh, it's all right. I'll just work on the weekend. I'll go outside right now. Like, you can't do that in any other sort of situation. You know, like I don't. If you don't think that's appealing to be able to like chop change and do whatever, but I mean, I'll retract a little bit, because each to their own. Some people do like the security of the 9 to 5, just like Orsi said, you know, working the graveyard shift. That's extremely draining, and you just want to become accustomed to a simple 9 to 5, go home, and you got the evening and you got the weekends to yourself, as opposed to working the evening shifts, etc. So it was something before that I, like you said, thought of it as a unicorn, but I think it's slowly, like, reality is slowly catching up to the unicorn for me in terms of being able to sort of achieve it and do it. But yeah, in terms of if I can do it, maybe, I don't know, it depends on what, like it can be anything. I don't think entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship has a set definition. You can sort of do anything and you can pull it off, if that makes sense. But in terms of what I could do, I don't know, you know, in terms of just have to find that out and see what I can do, come up with ideas, etc. And I'll also work for you, Andy. I'll just be a protege.
I think it's a very big difference in the draining part versus not draining. Both entrepreneurship and corporate can be draining and fun, and not draining. And even it's about what's the ratio, right? Because you could be a slave to your own business, but you can also be in a job that you really like and you really enjoy. So I think it's just about what you do and how you approach what you do.
Definitely. And it's so easy to view entrepreneurship as the unicorn, and then, you know, like you think when you start you're going to get the unicorn, you know, you're going to get it, you're going to get all the benefits, you're going to immediately, you know, have the ability to chop and change. No, it doesn't work like that. When you start off, you're going to be working your ass off to make sure that you can get to the stage where you can ride the unicorn. I don't know, like do whatever you want, you know what I mean?
The grass isn't green on the other side.
Yeah, it's not. And I've seen how hard you work, and I've seen how, like, the pressure you can put on yourself in terms of wanting to be able to succeed. And it's like levels, like a seesaw. Like you think you're on, you hop on the seesaw thinking you're gonna, I don't know, fly up or like go to the other side, but you know, you get on it and then you just fall down, and then you gotta, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like you got to work your way up, and it's never easy.
Yeah. One of the things that really intrigued me was I was listening to Gary Vee, and he was talking about how, like, in the future, everyone's going to become an entrepreneur. So this is how he broke it down. So right now, there's people making money talking, singing, doing ASMR, cracking people's backs. There's people making money doing dog therapy. There's people making money teaching other people how to make money. And there's just like so many different crazy ways to make money. Like literally 100 years ago, all those things I mentioned, you could not make money doing that. So eventually over time, everyone's going to be able to make money doing what they love. Like imagine if you loved, I don't know, like talking about pens. You can literally make money having a YouTube channel about different pens. And eventually it's just going to get more and more broad where everyone can just do what they love. But then the crazy thing is, like, right now, like literally still 95% of people work, maybe even 99% of people work a 9 to 5 job. How much percent of that 99 do you think actually they're right fit for it? They actually enjoy the security. They enjoy not having to think about their next paycheck. They enjoy just following steps. And how many percent of that actually just hate the 9 to 5?
I think people like to complain. And I think if what you said is interesting, because you said in X amount of years times, everyone can do what they love. Right now, everyone could do what they love. People need to figure out what they love and need to learn how to get it. And I think this whole entrepreneurial generation is definitely helping to shift the mindset in that way. But what I believe is that, and this is not just about what you do, but what you do feeds into it. Happiness is a learned skill. You have to learn how to be happy. And as an entrepreneur, it's the same thing when you're like chasing the carrot. You're chasing the carrot on a corporate level. In the entrepreneurship journey, you're chasing the unicorn. If you don't learn now how to enjoy what you do and how to be happy, then you get there and you still have to learn it then.
Very true. I think.
Yeah.
I was going to add on, Elon Musk has this quote: happiness is reality minus expectation. So what that means is, as of right now, in your reality, let's say you're just listening to this, you're just at home, lying on your bed, you expect to be able to travel, look as good as that person that you see on Instagram, to have that cool car like that person you see on Instagram, and as a result, you're lying there unhappy. But if your expectations was literally zero, your reality is like, damn, I have a roof over my shoulder, I have access to internet, I have time to be listening to this podcast, and I'm pretty happy. I just wanted to add that on, but I cut you there, so you can continue, Orsi.
Yeah, definitely. And with expectations, it's an interesting one, because this is gratitude, right? Like, a lot of people spend a lot more time these days on practicing gratitude, and there's a time and a place for everything, because expectations is what is going to make you happier, unhappy, or disappointed, but it's also what you're going to take you forward. I mean, if you don't want more, that's fine. The drive to want to be paid for things and want to have things and want to have experiences is what's going to give you the drive to do something, to create something. So it's the balance between taking the time to be grateful for what you have, and also thinking about, okay, what do I want? Where do I want to get to? What's the next step? What's my short term? What's my long term goal?
Yeah.
And how do I get there?
100%. I think when Andy first told me the quote as well, it took a while to process it. And it does make sense, because I think it makes sense in the context of the unreal or the slightly out of reach expectations that one has, as opposed to, if you don't have any expectations, you can't grow as a person. There's no way you can grow. You're just limiting yourself. You're 100% right, Orsi. That's the whole point of, I guess, wanting to strive for something greater. You need to have expectations of yourself. If you don't, then you're settling. You're happy with where you're at, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy with where you're at, that's fine. But should you want to, get to the next stage and get to the next level, that's where the expectations come in. Yeah, I agree.
When you were talking about that unicorn, like, the realization came to my head. I was like, in the corporate setting, the person that's like moving the carrot is like the person above you. But in entrepreneurship, when I'm chasing this unicorn, the unicorn, I'm setting the unicorn. Like, in my mind, like, I'm setting the unicorn, and like, as I'm chasing it, it's just moving further, and I'm never able to obtain it. And like, during this whole journey, I'm always sprinting, I'm always running, I'm always tripping and falling on my head. And then sometimes I get close to a unicorn, and the moment I get a small taste of it, I move the unicorn further, because I just have these huge expectations for myself. Now, that's definitely needed to be able to sort of hit all your goals. But at the same time, it's like super unhealthy, because you're just constantly chasing. So what I was trying to get at is, like, I think there is a way to like practice both having high expectations, but at the same time be really grateful to be in the situation you're in. I don't know why I keep moving the unicorn forward. I don't know why I have such high expectations for myself. I don't know why I don't choose to settle, and that's something I probably need to figure out. But I think it probably boils down to the fact that I do have this one life. I've one life and I want to make the most out of it. So that's why I feel guilty, which is also a bad thing, that every time I settle. Like recently over the last month, I've jumped over like 3 or 4 hurdles and things are starting to cool down and I can now breathe. But rather than taking a second to breathe, I'm thinking of the next, I'm literally putting up the next hurdles for me to jump over. So I'm like setting up my own traps basically. And I'm doing that subconsciously and consciously. But yeah.
I have an idea for you.
Yeah.
I think you should give yourself promotions.
Oh, interesting.
I think what you just said is very interesting because with you, that's a good thing you can take on from the corporate world is that there's milestones and there's kind of a celebration for the milestones. Yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, you could kind of lay those levels out for you, and maybe just at the beginning of the year I think goal setting is something that can help you with those kind of things. I try to sit down at the end of the beginning of the year and just write down, like Tony Robbins style, personal, financial, all the different goals, and then just reflect in the next year on what I actually executed from those things. And also you can just set out certain things and say, if I achieve this or if I get to this point, and you can just formalize it in any way, then I can do that. Then I'll get myself a holiday. Then I'll celebrate by buying something I want.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. Vincent taught me this thing called the Goldilocks Rule, where how in the story Goldilocks, she goes to the cabin with the bears. There's the 3 porridges. There was the one that was too cold, too hot, and just right. And what the Goldilocks Rule is always giving yourself small wins, and sort of as you grow, the wins do get bigger, but sort of just right. So I think what he was trying to say was, in my darkest times, in those times where I've been grinding 9 months straight, and by the end of it, I'm like, what's the point of all this? Whereas what he does is he constantly rewards himself with new cars, new watches, new clothing, holiday trips. I've been constantly chasing unicorn, and I never let myself have a taste of the carrot it's holding or whatever the unicorn has. And I think every so often I need to be able to get a taste of what I'm working for, but then that also goes into another trap of you're now working for Gucci, you're now working for Mercedes, you're now working for Louis Vuitton and buying all their items, you're now working for Rolex, you're buying the items, and it's constantly going to get more and more expensive.
Yeah, but this is why it shouldn't only be the celebrations and the things that you're working for shouldn't only be things.
Yes.
But this is the thing again, but when you went and bought your mom a car,
yeah.
Or experiences, like I can go snowboarding whenever I want to. We were gonna go hang gliding. We need to still do that. I personally don't care about brands too much. I spend a lot of money on experiences, but then again, I know that it makes other people happy, but there should be some part of your goal that is spending time with friends, being able to pay for a dinner for your friend or your sister, or every time when I'm in Hungary, I don't have to think twice about taking my family out.
And you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of going back on what you said earlier, Orsi, in terms of you'll always be unhappy and you'll always find yourself chasing a tail or chasing whatever unrealistic dreams you have, unless you can't really stop and understand what happiness means to you, or how to make yourself happy, or what makes you happy. Because if you don't know that, you're right. You're just going to keep chasing your tail. You're going to keep chasing around in circles, so that when Andy, when you go and splurge your cash on these things, afterwards you're sitting down with whatever you bought, and you're like, why'd I do that? Yeah, what did it make you happy? What's that really what made you happy?
hardly ever anyone will be happy from a Gucci or from a Mercedes. You're buying a Gucci because you want people to like you. And that Gucci is going to get people to have a conversation with you, which ends up like them being like you. So then you can go back to, is there any other way to get them to like me? I think. And you can always still, like, you know, having a nice car or a nice bag or a nice dress, it's great. And you should be making money and spending on those things. But I think the mindset is what makes you a slave to those more than the fact that you're chasing and trying to achieve more. Because you're talking about it on a theoretical level, but even if you're looking at yourself, you are not a slave to any of these, because you are chasing those experiences. You're chasing doing something for your family. You're out there exploring, you're traveling, meeting new people.
I agree. I think during COVID...
someone who's confused by what they're trying to achieve are the ones who are going to end up being unhappy chasing things like that.
Exactly. Like during COVID, when I wasn't able to travel, because what I realized was I had a good 2.5 year run where I never ever got burnt out. And I figured out why, because during those 2.5 years, I was always accidentally traveling. You know, someone would reach out here, there's a mastermind here, meet this person here, and I was Uluru was going to shut down, so I'm going to go there. There was always reason for me to accidentally travel. And when COVID hit and I was stuck for like the past year, I just got burnt out not knowing why. And I think experiences, traveling, that's what really allows me to be like, okay, this is why I'm doing things, to be able to have experiences like this. But then at the same time, I need to force myself to, you know, book in Airbnbs far away and just go and do my own thing. And I'm always procrastinating on those things. I always like to kill two birds with one stone. I always want to have a reason to go to somewhere. And when COVID has happened, now I can't go to places where I want to network. I can't go to a mastermind. I have to go ahead and book in some Airbnb at some interesting place and go out of my way to visit it. And I can't kill two birds with one stone. But that one stone that I do, with that one bird that I do hit, that sounds so bad, I am able to recover from, you know, doing that trip. I'm just always trying to procrastinate on that. So since I know that, I have to force myself, I guess.
I think you also have to give yourself a break sometimes, because there's a lot of this, like, you have to, and I think I told you this before, I can't stand Gary Vee, for example, where they make it out that you can only be an entrepreneur if you're doing this 24/7, and you can only achieve anything if you don't think about anything else and give up your life for like 5 years and then it's going to pay off. It's not always like that, and it doesn't have to be like that. I had this time as well when I was first getting into entrepreneurship, and I was like, while I'm on the bus, I'm going to make the most of my time, and I have to schedule 20 posts and this and that. And you know, your brain has to relax. Your brain has to unwind. And on the long term, you're going to only hurt yourself not switching off. If you can kill two birds with one stone. And you know me, I'm the same. I'm always like going here, going there, new hobbies, new people, constant. And I thrive on that. But it doesn't always have to be linked to business growth. You can learn about meditation. You can do a trip and do yoga or diving trip. You know, you just got your license. We can't really go anywhere, but we can go to Queensland, and it's the best diving site in the world. So practicing your diving and traveling could be the two birds. Or meeting new people, just people that are not necessarily in business.
I think Andy definitely needed to hear that. The guy works too hard. He definitely needed to hear that. He just works too hard.
You know, I love driving. Like, I love, even if it's driving to a city and it's like an hour away. Like, one, I'm driving there because there's like a destination, I'm doing a meeting or something. But that 1 hour downtime, that's the only time I'm able to really shut down, because I know that and I have that amazing satisfying feeling being like, I'm going and I'm doing something today. I'm not procrastinating. I'm not just driving for no reason. But I do have a habit of trying to, for example, when I'm at the barber, he doesn't do appointments. It's just always waiting, and like there's always at least 2 to 3 people. And I hate just sitting and waiting and doing nothing to get my hair cut. So I just like call a bunch of people and catch up with a bunch of people when I'm waiting. I'm always trying to find ways to fill up downtime. So that's definitely something I need to work on. I need to, like, even what you said about the Queensland trip, like in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna have to like book a ticket and I'm gonna do accommodation and it'll be cool and all, but like that's, 2-3 grand down, and I'm gonna take 3 days off work, and like I'm not gonna be able to do any network or meet people. It's just to scuba dive. Like in my mind, like that's a waste, but I know that it's actually an ROI because I'll be able to recover, and the cost on the recovery far outweighs the cost of that trip.
And that's the thing, like I do think it's a good thing to be making the most of your time. And I do the same thing when I'm waiting. Or if I'm walking around, I'll go to the supermarket, I'm listening to an audiobook. I think your time is extremely valuable and you have to make the most of it, but don't discount relaxation and recovery and fun as a waste of time. I think fun has the equal value to working and doing something creative and doing something interesting.
Andy sounds like a robot at the moment. He sounds like a robot. You just literally sound like a broken machine. Dude, relax, lighten up, go have fun. Yeah, just.
It's funny because I only ever seen you have fun because we've been skiing together.
That's very true. Talking about fun, Orsi, do you drink a lot? Do you party a lot? And like, is that happening on a weekly basis? Because I find like every time I go out and have like a night drink, the weekend is spent recovering, and then by the time Monday hits, I'm like back to square one, and I lost the momentum that I built up from the last Monday to Friday.
So I don't think I'm a good benchmark for this because I'm invincible. All of my friends are like, how the hell do you do this? I don't like to waste my time. So, and I don't get hangovers. I get hangovers. I do go out and drink and party, not on a weekly basis. I'm pretty an outlier. I haven't met many people like me. I do value sleep. I have to sleep enough, but just, even if I go out, the next morning I'll be up and go do your yoga, meditation, exercise, catch up with people, lunches, breakfast, whatever is planned for the day. I think it's just up to what your preference is. I don't know how I would think about drinking if I didn't recover that easily. And I do go through phases when I had a little bit too much, then I feel it, but it's also just from a health perspective. It's up to everyone what they like doing, and there's real value in that. What we said earlier, there's value in unwinding and giving it all out. Party. When I party, I spend a lot of time with my friends, and we talk about a lot of things. Just things that people have been emotionally going through, all these things through the coronavirus. Everyone had different things in their lives, and every time we party, there's someone who's super happy, there's someone who's crying in the corner, someone who's listening to them, and we've all took turns being every one of these characters. So if I wasn't doing that, maybe I wouldn't have spoken about those things.
Makes sense. I think like the surrounding on the environment on where you're sort of partying also is like super important. I think in certain settings you can't really let loose because it's just the right environment, I guess. And I think what you've been able to find, Orsi, is like a group of people where whenever you go out and party, you're able to really unwind, and everyone's sort of like the same type of people, And I think that's something I recently learned. What's your thoughts, Christian? Because, for example, the party we went to, I don't felt like I really unwinded. Did I need to drink more, or was it just like the environment? What's your thoughts, Christian?
Environment. Definitely the environment. You'll know you'll know when you're in the right environment to just like when you have a group of friends, you can just easily unwind, you can just have a good time with, but you can also like focus and do other stuff with, you know what I mean? So I think it just comes down to environment, and then like unwinding completely, and then just talking about anything, everything, and then like properly unwinding. Yeah, it comes down to environment. I don't think, sometimes people as well, but more so environment, I think.
And drinking more isn't going to help, right?
Absolutely not.
You're not
Orsi,
a machine, Andy.
Do you think you're an extrovert or introvert?
Oh, I'm an extreme extrovert.
Got it. Okay. Because I think I've been like doing a lot of like, I'm pretty sure I'm an introvert. Like when I'm talking, when I'm filming, when I'm on camera, afterwards I'm tired. Are you tired actually? After like you, for example, after this, would you feel tired, or have you actually gained energy?
No, gain energy, definitely.
I've expensed energy. I'll like I think I probably used to be extroverted, but I don't know, at the moment I feel pretty introverted.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that doesn't mean that I don't like being alone and I don't value alone time. And I think that's something that a lot of people get wrong, that an extrovert is sociable and an introvert is not sociable. I actually have a lot of very sociable introvert friends, but they just need their recovery time after a lot of socializing.
Tell me about those people, because I do feel like you're right. Like I do actually enjoy hanging out with certain types of people, but just like them, they need time to recover. Tell me about those type of people.
I actually have a lot of friends, and my sister is like that as well. It's just, if they had a party, maybe the next day they need to be at home and watch a movie, whilst I would have things scheduled every night. Or, I would go from catching up with a group of friends to seeing another group of friends, and they'll just tell me like, oh, I just couldn't do that. It would be too much.
Yeah.
But they're all very sociable and talkative and love being around people.
Yeah, like I think roughly, around July, August, I went like hard on networking. I was like doing Saturday night dinners and Sunday afternoon brunch and like Friday night, and just stacking up meetings. And it was fun meeting people, it was cool. But like after like a month of doing that, of just like back-to-back weekends scheduled in, I was like drained. I was like squeezed. I was like a dry lemon. But yeah, I think I'm like starting to figure out who I am, and I guess it must be good being an extrovert.
Absolutely, and it's what you said as well. You go through phases, right? You go through a week or two or a month when you just really feel like being around people, and especially after that, you feel like, okay, I just need a little bit of space and think about myself. Because when you spend a lot of time around and with people, you don't really have the time to reflect and process things. And that's why your thoughts become a bit saturated. And, even if you're enjoying those experiences and enjoying new people, you can't really process the experience of them.
I think you're right. You lose like the ability to connect when you're drained.
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely one of those people that like after like a few days in a row out, I'm at home and I'm like, no, I'm staying at home tonight. I'm not going outside. I'm not doing this, or like I'll reschedule other plans. I don't know. Just because those things where you see, I've seen these posts on like social time or a social clock. I don't believe it, but I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it. I got to stay at home and everything. But yeah, definitely.
Christian, I think we've done a pretty good podcast. We've hit the 55-minute mark.
I was just about to say we hit the sweet spot, 55. We covered so many different things. I really enjoyed today's episode. Today's episode was really good.
Yeah, really good chat, as always.
Yeah, I had fun. I think it was like a cool casual conversation. What I learned was, I think in the beginning it was like more like interview styled. In the middle, we really started getting into conversation. Then it's sort of just like we toned down during the end. But I think this was like a pretty cool, fun podcast. We were able to really get in a different perspective. I think the main reason I wanted to bring in Orsi is because she was like the in-between of like Christian and me. Christian is like fully into the corporate world. I'm fully entrepreneurial, and you've been in the in-between. So you've been able to relate to both people. Christian's been able to relate with you. I'm able to relate with you. And it was like a good mix. And yeah, I had fun, Orsi. Thank you so much for coming on.
Definitely. I had a lot of fun too. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I guess, where can people find you if they want to find more about what you're doing or what you've been up to, Orsi?
Probably LinkedIn. I didn't think about this.
We'll leave all the relevant.
I'm only starting out my new venture at the moment, so there's not much along there. But yeah, maybe I'll come back on when it's going, and then we can discuss that phase, and then I'll share where people can find.
We'll hold you to that.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. So yeah, thank you so much. Christian, would you like to close it off?
Thank you so much for listening as well, guys. We appreciate it very much. Hopefully next episode, tune in again. But in the meantime, thank you so much, and catch you on the next episode.
Peace.